we weld a powerful new offering from Ocean Swift Synthesis. This is Dystopia Diary. For those of you into cinematic sound design, this one is a no-brainer. Featuring a massive library of otherworldly to goosebump evoking soundscapes, Dystopia Diary can give you the edge on your movie making endeavors. Let's take a look at the controls. You have 4 tabs at the top. Main, which is a couple of detailed filters. You also get amp, envelope, saturation, and volume. And then this drone option allows you to press a key and it will just keep playing. The filters come with quite a number of filters that you can use on the entire sound itself, right? You get 2 of these. They do have LFO functions here. All right, now we have, of course, attack and release as stated. So that is the amp envelope, but you have saturation to give your sound an extra bit of oomph. And then how you control the volume here is on front as well. The effects screen, now I'll go back to the edit screen in a second. You get 4 types of effects in here. So we have creative effects. Most of this appears to be like a distortion type of effect, right? So you have that ability. Your modulation effects, which has some of your basic stuff in here. So we have flanging, we have phasers, wow, flutter, chorus, all of those type of things that you can add to the overall sound. We have 3 separate delays in here: replica, twin, and psyche. These offer you 3 different flavors of delay that you can use. The reverb section, we have 3 separate reverb engines in here. They all sound a little different from each other. Now under the options, you have 2 sections here for modifying your modulation wheel and your pitch bend wheel, right? And so we have under modulation wheel a number of options in here to assign to the modulation wheel. And then these are what layers are affected, because this is a multi-layered plugin, right? So you have 6 layers, so how much V depth will affect each of the layers. And then for the pitch bend, you can change how much the pitch bend affects each of the 6 layers. Now the plugin does have animations. If you look here on the front, the light, right, is going in and out, and you can see some of the fog is kind of moving. You can turn that option off if you do not want that activated. Down here in the manual section is just giving you some brief information. Credits, all right, all the folks that were involved with creating and developing this plugin, and then a little bit of lore for the plugin. Now, the meat and the heart of Dystopia Diary is the edit page. This is where you get down and dirty, right? It comes with 6 layers, 13 categories. That's 12 including a user category where you can drag and drop your own samples. And for the 12 built-in categories, each one has a number of sounds that come with it. And you can assign any of the layers to any of these categories and use any of those sounds on any of those layers, right? You have this button here, which will allow you to have a fixed sound, which means that no matter what key you play, it will remain in one pitch. Or you can click track and it will change the pitch based off of the key that you play. Now you have the ability to switch through these categories and sounds by arrows. Next to that is the volume for each layer and the panning for each layer. And this represents how long that sample is at the end. These 2 buttons, yellow, it's in solo, red, it is muted. And so you multiply that across each one of the layers and you get an enormous amount of flexibility when it comes to creating soundscapes. The next tab here is the tuning tab. So you can change the pitch in semitones, that is notes, or you can go cents, which is in between the notes. You have the ability to tune the loop, right? So that's the start point and then the end point. Now, unfortunately, the end point does not give you any visual feedback. So it's a little bit difficult to tell what's where, but it's there if you need it. You have the simple filters here. So these are fixed filters. So a basic high pass filter and a basic low pass filter. And that's different than the filters that are here. You have a volume LFO that you can modify the depth and rate with, right? Now this button re-triggers. Without it, it will just continue on its LFO path. And then this is the rate of that LFO, and you can use your DAW's built-in tempo to match it to the tempo if need be. The pitch LFO is the same thing on the pitch rather than on the volume. The stereo detune settings, this allows you to spread the stereo and get a wider stereo field, and you can blend that between the original signal or 100% on spread. And then finally, we have the lo-fi section where you can do bit reduction and sample rate reduction. And of course, this button next to each one that has it is how you turn that function off and on. That, folks, is the controls. Let us take a look at a use case for Ocean Swift's Dystopia Diary. All right, so here's our setup. I have some footage that I cobbled together from Star Citizen. And this is going to be the first episode on the channel that I'm starting doing scoring, basically. So starting with the station, we utilize the user sample import function to put some footsteps in here. This is what that sounds like. So watch the video. This is the room tone. So we utilize the carpet option in here. So just one layer. Now this is the light buzz. Now this is using several of the layers that come with the plugin. And this is what that sounds like. So if we use that in combination with the room, it sounds like this. For the elevator, we use 2 layers of noise. That's just the room tone for the elevator. For the elevator mechanical parts, that is the door. So we use the Industry and Construction 7. We modified the start point so that we grab this part at the end. That's what we found in there to use. Following that, we have the sound of the elevator going down. We used Industry Construction 12. All right, very simple. And then we varied the sound of the elevator closing by using Construction 7, but at a different section. All right, and all together, all 3 of those sound like this. Now, once we got out into the lobby, same room tone from before. However, we added some chatter. Now this uses 2 chatter layers and then a carpet noise floor. And that sounds like this. Once the scene changes, we used a different set of chatter and noise floor here. Now this says clean, imagine that's English, and then clean odd. That sounds like this. And these are taking advantage of the reverb that is in the effects section. Third, we have another layer of chatter. Now this is using some military sound samples in here along with chatter. The 3 of those with the room tone then scene change. Finally, for the PDA, now I did add the button sound that we used to close out the PDA as a user sample, as well as this alarm echo tone, right? Just to add to what we already could get within the software. And so that with the simple sound effect sounds like this. Now we're on to the hangar and ship sounds. All right, so hangar ambience, we used a layer of carpets for Mech Factory. It sounds like this. Then we put a layer of what I call garage work, which is using construction sounds. A little bit of editing. All right. So they're doing that stuff off screen. You can't see them. We have the first set of gears for the ship raising up out of the ground. A second set of gears. And to go with the flashing lights, we added our own imported sample, an alarm that goes with. Taking advantage of the reverb here to give it some depth to the room. And then as the ship is fully raised to its top position, we used more imported samples. Now to add to the immersion, we use some ambience radio. And that comes with the plugin under Carpets Multi 7. For the dashboard scene, this is what we use. It's 3 layers from Dystopia Diary. The engine rumble, and we used 2 layers from Dystopia Diary. And that's just a monotone rumble that exists from inside the ship, right? The sound of the doors opening. And then the sound of the doors blowing wide open, we used a imported sample for dramatic effect. And then I'll play those 2 together so you can kind of get an idea of what that's doing. Now for the ship takeoff, I really wanted it to be quite dramatic. So we used, for the first one, we have a total of 3 user imported sounds, some risers basically. This is the second one. And then the third one. And then for even more of a dramatic effect, as it was exiting out and the camera kind of jumped. And so with all 4 of these together, now we have a warp scene that we move to, and we're using just tremoloed white noise rising. We combine that with flightscape carpets, so that gives that in-air kind of feel to it. All right, and then with both of those playing, it sounds like this. Next is the settlement. So this is where we did a little bit of scoring with Dystopia Diary, but we kind of set a lot of mood. There's a few sound effects that we use, but it's mostly mood setting sounds. The bulk of the underlying foundation is from the actual game itself. So the footsteps, the weather sounds, the rain sounds, all of that came from the game itself. All right, so this first one is called Eerie Shack. It has a long fade in, so it kind of creeps in. All right, so on top of that, we brought in a suspenseful sound. This is using all 6 tracks in Dystopia Diary from one of the libraries. and you can see how it loops, so it just keeps going, and it provides unlimited sound bed in this regard, right? This next one, we labeled it Brain Spot. This is using 2 layers from the Dystopia Diary library. Now, here we're using a sound on top of the original sound to enhance the original tractor beam sound. All right, so now we have 2 beds coming up. So we have a high intrigue bed, low intrigue bed, and then to add to the scene, which actually wasn't in this thing at all, I had to create this part, the visuals for it. We added some dog sounds, some growls. So these things called copian, basically alien dogs, and they sometimes try to eat you. So we added 2 of those using the dog growl library. All right, so these last 2 tracks are actually melodic scoring pieces that we used. This one is called Side Saw or Saw Sides. This is Mystery and Angst, but it's a different melodic pattern. And then lastly, we used it here. And that, folks, is how I put Dystopia Diary to use for this video. Also, we added voiceover and a orchestral score to finish off the video to provide a complete little trailer. And here is the complete product. This should be pretty easy pickings, though I am due for a challenge of some sorts. If my sources are correct, Mr. Arbalo should have left me a nice little package.
Selected. Stand by.
Maybe I should take a pistol. I won't need it. In and out. Well, looks like no one's home. I better stay sharp. All right, where are you? Well, hello. Lights on. What's this? Locked. Okay. Strange and slightly out of place. Okay. come on. I still got it. Easy peasy. Come here, baby. Yeah, gotcha. Copian. Damn it. Little bastards. I should have brought a pistol. Well, at least I didn't leave empty-handed. If you're interested in getting a copy of Dystopia Diary, check the link in the description. Outside of that,